Hey folks, hello, we're here. Faith Nation, Jenna Browder, myself. Big interview today. Liberty University has their big commencement address and graduation on Saturday, and we know that President Trump spoke last year. Another president this year, former President Jimmy Carter.
That's right, and President Carter joins us now. President Carter, thank you so much for doing this with us.
Jenna, it's a pleasure to be with you and David. Thank you.
First question, what advice or wisdom do you have for these graduates?
Well, I'm going to talk to them about the need for all Christians to work together in harmony and to forget about political differences and to pursue the principles of Jesus Christ, and congratulate them on having a wonderful Christian university with a very large enrollment, and just make sure they understand the similarities that bind us together instead of concentrating on some of the political differences that might separate us.
There are quite a few of those, I would think, along the way. I'm sure you've experienced that. I'm wondering about, speaking of politics, a little bit about North Korea. It's obviously in the news. You have a deep history when it comes to North Korea and the negotiations that have gone on over there. President Carter, can you tell us a little bit about what you make of what is happening over there, and that should President Trump be getting any credit for some of the movement that we're seeing right now?
Well, I think that what the North Koreans have always wanted since I first went over in 1994, I've spent about 20 hours or more talking to the top leaders of North Korea, and what they want is an absolute binding assurance that the United States will not attack them as long as they stay at peace with their own neighbors, South Korea and Japan and so forth. And they would like to see a completely denuclearized Korean peninsula. Those are the things that they want, and I don't know if we'll be willing to yield on some of their demands, but I think they sincerely want to have peace with us on a permanent basis, and they would like to see an end to the very damaging economic restraints or blockade we placed on North Korea for the last 65 years.
Are you pleased with what President Trump is doing in this area with North Korea?
Well, I think except for, assuming ahead of time that they're going to completely yield as a prerequisite, I think his pressure on them economically has been a beneficial factor, and I think we need to treat them with respect. They have suffered a lot economically because of our restraints on their economy, and they have brilliant scientists, and they have been remarkably successful in developing intercontinental missiles and also nuclear capabilities. And I think they're willing to give up their nuclear program completely if we will reach out to them halfway.
President Carter, what would be your advice to President Trump going into this meeting?
Treat them with respect. Don't have any prerequisite on what they should agree to do, and be willing to accommodate their basic requests, which I've already outlined, which I'll do again if you want me to.
No, that's fine. No, we got it the first time for sure, for sure. I do want to ask you about President Trump's decision to move the U.S. Embassy to Jerusalem. Obviously, it was controversial. Many evangelicals obviously applauding his decision to do it. What do you think? Good move, bad move?
I think it's a very bad move. I think it's going to set back any prospect of a two-state solution to the problem over there, and which I think is the only viable solution that we can hope for.
President Carter, when it comes to the Middle East peace process, you've been pretty vocal in your support for Hamas. What do you say to the critics who say that you're anti-Israel?
I don't have support for Hamas. I have support for the Palestinians in general. And I spelled that out in the decisions that were made at Camp David in 1978. And my position has not changed. I've been the top priority in my international life has been to bring peace to Israel and its neighbors. And I think the only way to do it is by treating the Palestinians fairly and letting them have their own state alongside Israel, treating Israel in peace and with respect and mutual respect between the Palestinians and Israel. But as far as Hamas is concerned, they only have real power right now inside Gaza and not the entire West Bank.
You know, President Carter, obviously you wear your faith on your sleeve. You're an evangelical. In the Bible, obviously, it talks about in Genesis 12:3, I will bless those who bless Israel. I will curse those who curse Israel. That is why so many evangelicals support this move of the embassy to Jerusalem. What is your view as it relates to some of that scriptural basis that we've been hearing so much about?
Well, as I said, my number one priority in international affairs for all my political life has been to bring peace to Israel and also peace to Israel's neighbors. And so that's what I spelled out at Camp David, and that's what I believe the Israelis and the Palestinians agreed to do. Just one part of that was to bring peace between Israel and Egypt, and we concluded a peace treaty in that respect. And I don't think any word of that peace treaty has been violated by either Israel or Egypt, and it's been good for both sides. And I think if we can find an avenue to peace on a two-state basis between Israel and Palestine, the Palestinians, and they can live in peace as well.
President Carter, we know your humanitarian work is important to you. What's your focus right now?
Well, we're down to the last phase of eradicating guinea worm. We have a massive program in Ethiopia where we train more than 35,000 nurses and high level in nursing in medicine, and they help us when we go in, so we can treat as many as 10 million people in 5 or 6 days now with the nurses helping us all over Ethiopia. So I would say that reaching out to people in African countries to educate them about their own diseases and what they can do themselves to counteract the effect of those diseases is a very important part of our effort, as well as eradicating particular diseases. We're down now to just 3 cases the first of this month, confined to the country of Chad. We started out with 3.5 million cases in 21 different countries. So we're making good progress on guinea worm to eradicate, and we're doing that on treatment of multiple diseases as well.
You know, 40 plus years ago, you were considered the first evangelical president. And here comes Donald Trump, who has all of this evangelical support out there. Is it a shake your head moment for you? I'm curious what you make of the evangelical movement today, especially with all of the support for Donald Trump out there.
Well, I consider myself an evangelical. I'm part of an evangelical group, and I'm not a Trump supporter. There are a lot of evangelicals, but I think that the recent policy of the news media is to consider that only arch-conservative Republican supporters can be called evangelicals. But I still consider myself an evangelical, and I'm a loyal Democrat.
Any idea as to why you think all of these evangelicals are supporting President Trump? Have you been surprised at that?
Well, that process began when I was in the White House, because some of the things I did was looked upon by some of the evangelicals as not proper. I'd say that the main thing was when we signed a peace treaty that let the control of the Panama Canal leave us. They didn't like the fact that I normalized diplomatic relations with Communist China at that time, and I did some other things concerning strict separation of church and state. And some evangelicals disagreed with me, and they went to the Republican Party, and that's been a fairly substantial move. But I think that we have just as many evangelicals, or at least as many, who are not Republicans as we do Republicans in the nation.
And President Carter, we know you teach Sunday school. What are you teaching your students?
Well, I teach Sunday school every Sunday that I'm home in Plains, and some of the things that I'm going to say in my graduation speech, I've already got written, is mirrors what I teach at my class in Sunday school. I remind them at the close of some of the services that some of my lessons that God gives us life and freedom and a chance to live a successful life as measured by God, and that we should be reaching out to people with whom we disagree with love and care and respect, and not hold grudges against other people, and we should follow the mandates that were laid down by Jesus Christ, who was a Prince of Peace.
I just have, we have two last questions for you, and then we're done. I'm curious, one last on President Trump. Anything at all that you think that he has done a pretty good job at, or you've been totally frustrated? There are many progressives out there that just, they want to impeach him, they want him to be done. What do you think? Is there anything at all that you think he has done in a positive way here?
Well, I think he's shown a very strong presidency, which is admired by many people. He's kept his campaign promises better than I anticipated, and I disagree with him on most of his basic policies concerning immigration and things of that kind. But I hope that he'll be successful in resolving the issues between us and North Korea, and I hope that he'll keep our country at peace, and that he'll honor human rights.
And finally, President Carter, is it Yanni or Laurel?
Well, my wife and I have seen that, and both of us say Laurel.
And that is correct, because that's what we think too, by the way, President Carter. So you're right.
I'm glad to hear that. That puts my mind at ease.
President Jimmy Carter, just a simple pleasure and honor to talk with you, and good luck this Saturday at Liberty University.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. I'm looking forward to it. Goodbye, to both of you.
Thank you again.
Thank you.